All right, let's try Way from Nashville, Tennessee. Way, you were on the air.
Hey David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hey. So I guess I don't know. I'm kind of seeing this new Mississippi abortion bill being pushed to the Supreme Court, or the Supreme Court's willing to examine it.
I haven't looked
And
at it.
yeah, so it's a new law or bill from Mississippi that's has something to do with making adjustments or limiting Roe v. Wade.
Hmm.
And I just don't see like how that could. I mean, I see in a reality sense that the the conservative majority could change it, but like, what actual common sense is sort of backing that? Because we've had Roe v. Wade in place for what 50 years now.
Yeah, this is the idea here is not that any one bill is necessarily going to be what creates alternative precedent to change Roe v. Wade. It's they just want to keep hammering, hammering, hammering. And as soon as they can get anything favorable from the Supreme Court, it will then become the model in more states to clamp down on abortion. So I get it. You look at this one bill and you rightly say, this makes no sense. We have Roe v. Wade, blah, 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 blah. But that's the whole point. Keep sending things up to the Supreme Court and try to slowly erode abortion rights. Now, I have to ask you, there's a hissing, a clapping, and horn honking in the background. Where are you right now? Describe it to us.
I'm really sorry. I'm at work right now. I'm walking like in the back of the warehouse to make sure
Okay.
I stay away from that stuff
Is
as
there
much
a
as possible.
forklift? Is there a forklift going by you right now?
No, but there's these big fans on the roof that are spinning, and I'm real sorry about that.
That's okay. No, you were well intentioned. It's a great question. And the strategy is keep hammering away and wait until you can get something favorable from the Supreme Court. And they just may, because we have one of the most right wing Supreme Courts in a long time.
Okay, cool. Also, one more question. So,
Yeah.
like, just watching like the sort of trash propaganda and just bad faith from like Tucker Carlson and a lot of other Fox News uh, hosts and whatnot. Like, you think it's worth debating like a Tucker Carlson? Like, is that gonna would that even be worth time?
Is it worth it for who to debate Tucker Carlson is the question.
Yeah, I guess that depends, but it's like I don't know, like you maybe.
I mean, sure, maybe. I mean, you like on his show, here's the thing about all these questions. It's like, what's the format? What's the topic? What's the point? Who's the audience? Where does it air? There's no one question, one answer to these different questions. I do think it's worth refuting bad ideas. And in that sense, it's worth refuting Tucker Carlson.
All right. Well, thanks for taking my call, David.
My pleasure. All right, we'll let you get back to the warehouse there. Just a lot going on there, really a lot happening, but it's great to hear from so many different people. Why don't we go next to, why don't we try Ruth from Canada? Ruth, you are on the air.
Hi, David.
Hi, where in Canada are you calling from?
Alberta.
Oh, beautiful. That's a very conservative area, isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately.
What's going on? Yeah.
So I have two questions. A few years ago, I think you hosted or you produced a bunch of YouTube clips about discussing logical fallacies and things like that.
Hmm.
Wondering if you would do an updated version of that. Or
Well,
maybe put it
Ruth,
more in.
I don't
Sorry, go
know
ahead.
if we're going to update that specifically, but we
Hmm.
are now working. This is a exclusive to Ruth from Canada announcement. We are now looking at revitalizing our sort of long form deep dives and really competing head on with the trash from PragerU and their bogus right wing explainers. So this is currently in development. And so I don't know if we're going to redo the critical thinking series, but we're going to do all sorts of new explainers. And I think that there will be a lot of things to look forward to as far as that goes.
Looking forward to it. My second question is, McConnell's just confirmed, on no surprise to anyone, that he wouldn't support an independent investigation of the January 6th riot.
Yeah. And the term
What's
independent,
what?
I mean, it's really what we're talking about is bipartisan, right? It's
Right.
not so much independent as bipartisan. But yeah, Mitch McConnell said he's not going to support it.
What do you think the likelihood is that the investigation will be able to move forward?
I actually think it will, partially because it's the House that would be doing it and Mitch McConnell is in the Senate. I know he still wields power, of course, but there are also at least 20 and maybe as many as 50 Republicans who want to see it happen. So I think that I do believe it will happen.
Awesome. Okay, well, love your show. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ruth. Great to hear from you. Sorry you're in such a right-wing haven in Canada there. I've heard a lot of things about Alberta. It can get pretty brutal from what I've read. Okay, we're speaking to people via Discord. davidpakman.com/Discord is the place to find it. Let's go next to Sam from New York City. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks so much for taking my call. I just wanted to ask, I'm all about abolishing the filibuster. I'm all about putting pressure on, Joe Manchin and the like. I think that is critical if we want to get aggressive agenda passed, especially some of these voting rights bills. But, West Virginia, I think it's like the second Trumpiest state in terms of just 2020 vote share. And so my concern is that even though I don't agree with the more moderate Democrats, I think being too willing to criticize and oust them from the party could just result in a future where we get 50 votes in the Senate. We're looking at 46, 47, 48 as we sort of miss any chance of having Democratic senators in purple or reddish states goodbye.
I totally agree with you. I've been making this point for years, and I know that there are people who will get mad at this example, but here's the reality. If you primary Joe Manchin with Bernie Sanders and Democrats in West Virginia pick Bernie over Joe Manchin, I don't see how the hell Bernie then wins the general Senate election in West Virginia. Now, maybe at some point that specific example won't be a good one, but I completely agree with you in principle, which is sometimes when Democrats want to replace a centrist Democrat with a further left Democrat, the most likely scenario would be that it's just a Republican who wins, and that's worse.
No, exactly. I completely agree. And I guess I also worry in terms of getting rid of the filibuster, though I support it. If you do that in isolation, that's where it really concerns me, because in isolation, you eliminate the filibuster, but we're in a system where, Republicans got 40 million, or Democrats got 40 million more votes in the most recent Senate elections than Republicans, yet the Senate still split. When there's such a structural disadvantage for Democrats, I think creating a more majoritarian system, the Senate, when the Senate is so biased towards Republicans, could be a recipe for disaster. Even though Republicans don't seem to support any real policy anyway.
I completely agree with you. And the other important thing to remember is there are, when we talk about the obstacles to getting X done, rarely is there one blanket explanation for why X won't get done. There's usually different explanations for different things. When you have a bill that Joe Biden wants, but 2 Democratic senators don't want, versus a bill that Joe Biden wants, but every senator wants, but every Democratic senator wants, but it requires 60 instead of 50, meaning it's now on Republicans. Every one of these scenarios is a different scenario, and there's not one solution. And the solution of just primary every centrist Democrat and then it'll solve all your problems, I don't think it's a realistic solution. I think it will maybe solve some and create new problems as well.
Totally. Would you mind if I ask one last question?
Go ahead. By the way, is this Sam Cedar or a different Sam from New York City?
No, different.
Different. Okay, got it. Okay.
I'm calling, actually.
Got it.
What I was going to say is, I was just wondering your take. One thing that really frustrates me is how American-centric Americans' worldviews and political views tend to be, and just that all of our focus is always on domestic politics when there are so many, there were huge British elections just earlier this week, and there are crises happening across the globe. And I understand that a lot is happening in the U.S. and it's good to pay attention, but what do you think is our responsibility as Americans who have the privilege to have access to global news to stay up to date on not only international politics, but the domestic politics of other countries?
I mean, I think that I would prioritize, if you find someone who pays no attention to what's going on outside the U.S., I would suggest first start paying attention to what's going on internationally. That would be a higher priority than knowing the internal politics of other countries. If you say, well, pick one to start with. I think it's very easy when you live in a country like the United States that dictates so much of global culture and global technology and so many different things, just to basically be in an island and only pay attention to what happens in the US. I think it leads to very narrow worldviews. And I think it leads to people who it leads to that wing of the Republican Party where we said, hey, earlier this week, Europe announced it would open to vaccinated people. And I said, I don't think this will be much of an incentive to the anti-vaccine Republicans because they already think Europe is just about sissies and communists. There's a whole culture of people who proactively are hostile to the idea of what happens in other countries mattering. And you have to change the culture around that.
Totally. I think when you consider just how crucial the role of our allies is, and you look at the fact that, all right, Germany is going to have a new chancellor at the end of the year. France has elections next summer. A lot of things are going to change, even a lot of things that could impact Joe Biden's ability to get his foreign policy agenda done. Yet we pay very little attention. But I agree with you about the prioritization.
All right, my friend. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. You too. Really strong calls today, I have to tell you. A lot of very interesting topics.